Arys. How you doing?
I'm good, Alex. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. As we were talking right before the recording, it's been a while. Like we've been in touch for a while, and like it was long due that we finally meet. So nice to meet you, Arys. Really, like it's yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's long overdue, and I had reached out to you a while back, and we connected, and I think the timing is right now, especially with everything going on in the world. So thanks for having me finally.
It's a pleasure. Let's kick it off by kind of my twofold use. Like the usual question that I've been asking for the past few months. Where are you located, and how has been the pandemic for you so far?
Great question, Alex. So I'm located in Toronto, Ontario. I'm in the North York area of Toronto, and for those that don't know, pretty much like near Yorkdale Shopping Mall, if you don't know, or if you do know. And the pandemic for me, uh, in the beginning, and when we were sort of in the crux of it, I was saying that it didn't really affect me as much, but it's starting to affect me a bit now, especially with this whole vaccine thing and people requiring. I haven't been vaccinated yet, but places are requiring you to have that proof of vaccine and stuff like that. So just maneuvering around that, figuring ways to do it. I've always been a homebody, and work didn't really stop for me during the pandemic, which I'm truly grateful for. But we're all a bit afraid, and certain organizations and companies, they start implementing these policies that require you to be vaccinated because they're afraid, even if 99% of the organization is vaccinated and you're a part of that 1% that isn't and doesn't need to be, they still want you to be, so you gotta
Yeah.
you're in this personal fight with yourself and the company you work for. So we'll figure it out, but no complaints. It could always be worse. So how's it been for you where you are?
Wow, like that's a great question. Like, it is still. It's funny. It's kind of those there are waves, right? Like so initially, being quarantined with. I have a son with special needs.
Yes.
He's on the spectrum. So like no more daycare. My wife and I kept our job, so like we were deemed labeled essential services right off the bat. So
Yes.
we
Yes.
had full time jobs with a son with special needs at home. So it was a fucking nightmare, to be quite honest. So like it was really really tough. And at some point, we mutually agreed that like my wife worked for a smaller company that I did. I work for like I literally work for Dell. Like so I it's 160,000 employees that could actually like for a while could actually they were. I mean, like I was about to say, they were kind enough. They didn't have much choice, either that or they would just fire me. I actually told them that, like I couldn't, like I just couldn't do like full 8 hour days. Like my son could be left, like even a few minutes alone, like, so it was just like, guys, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to be there during nap time and, whatever. But, I'm, knowing that my wife's job was much more at risk than mine.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of, I sacrificed a lot of the time there. So that's one, like which was, like kind of, the evening was more of a regroup time where my wife and I made like a phenomenal team, and we would just discuss and talk a lot about
Yes.
it. And recently, I started kind of discovering that by, being alone a lot, and not just alone, but socially. Um, how can I say it? Um, Unused to be socially around people.
Yes.
Recently, I went. I told the same story last week, but like I went to a restaurant for someone's birthday, and one of the best table in the world, actually. Like it's like super high ranked
Yeah.
restaurant
Yeah.
worldwide.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Musso in Montreal. And so we were, like we were two
I miss
couples.
I miss Montreal, man. I want to come over there. So Montreal. I miss Montreal.
And I was actually like I had a great time, but I actually told my wife that when I got back in the car to drive back home, there was that kind of tickling in the back of my neck. Like there's very no other way I could explain that, which is not, I don't know if it's agoraphobia. I don't know if it translates well.
Right.
Which it, like it's phobia of crowds and whatever.
Right.
It wasn't that, but really almost like the shadow of a sigh of relief, sitting back in my car on my way back home,
Mm.
which fucking worried me. Like I was like, wow, like what's going on here?
Yeah.
Am I really, do I have like the tip of my toes in what other could live or feel like through phobias developing after being that much time alone and without like kind of the social and crowd gathering.
Right.
And it's really not my type. Like my job is actually, I'm a sales representative. Like I should be on the road meeting with people,
Yes.
but I'm not eager to. Like so, which is it is a problem. Like I should be anxious to get back on the road and meeting with people, but consciously or like unconsciously, I don't want to. And so I started kind of being aware of that, and like that's so it's not uncomfortable. It's just that I realized that, oh wow, I need to really be conscious that um, there's kind of something in the back of my mind that says, well, like you could stay home. That's good.
Right.
And so I have to kick my butt out of the house. Like so.
Were you?
Yeah.
Where was it? Did you guys end up, guys and girls, you and your wife, did you end up finding like a babysitter to kind of cover those gaps? Like, how
We did.
difficult is it for you to manage that with your child?
It's like at some point during like that process, we ended up finding special needs specialists. One lady was super kind. Like she worked at the school, and since schools were shut down, um, like we obviously paid her well, but like she was super open to come and like last mostly the mornings and like until my sons would nap.
Yeah.
Um, so like there was that. Eventually after that, like we moved since, like so we went from one shore of Montreal to the other shore of Montreal, and so we found someone else that's super open and super kind, and so she gives us Tuesday nights, not Tuesday nights, but Tuesday evenings, but Thursday nights, like and so all our Thursdays are actually like my wife and I literally have dinner together, and like we do some activity, like so we either go like this Thursday we just booked that, like we're going to go see Dune, and like it's like so it's going to be movie night with some nice dinner, and like so that's our way to kind of build back some intimacy and like
Yes.
just
Yes.
being a couple, like
Yes.
so and sometimes it's just like you, before we started recording, you talked about your dog. I have a young dog, but it's a huge dog. Like
Yes.
she's and she made a fucking mess in my backyard this evening. Like it was really, really, really bad. Like like and I was really, really angry. Like
Right.
really, really angry.
Right.
And and so I had to talk it off. Like I had to really vent off to my wife and say, she's like that close for me to just return her. Like
Yeah.
it was that bad. Like I told you, like I have a son that asks for a lot, and um, I'm like the project in this house should be my son. Like if I remove time that I can, like just spend on, like making my son's life better,
Yes.
and to a dog that fucks up my backyard, um, it's I failed, like because actually the dog is, like she's in training to become a service dog, like
Right.
so, but if I spend an hour running after her because like she destroyed some pieces of my property,
Right.
um, I'm actually like like my the exercise is failing here. Like there's something missing in like what I'm doing. And anyways, like it's just to say that like there's a lot of communication is key, during all the process.
Right.
Long answer to, to your question, but, it really is, it's another journey, I'd say, you never know,
Another
sometimes.
challenge. Another
Yeah,
challenge.
sometimes your spouse down, sometimes it's you, sometimes creativity is involved, um, shooting ideas. My wife is great at finding ways for us to to meet with people. My wife is like the social beast. She loves she loves having people at home. I tend to rather do the documentary and the Netflix and chill shit. So.
Right. Right.
Um, okay. And last question I got around the pandemic thing.
Yeah.
There's two questions. Would is it is it kind of can I ask you why you're hesitating on the vaccine thing?
Great question, Alex. I feel like it's not like I'm anti-vaccine or anything like that. I just feel more so like people should have the opportunity to choose for themselves if that's what they want to do. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't believe that people should be forced to do something that they don't want to do. Like,
Yep.
the government didn't give birth to me. My mother did, you know?
Yeah.
My
Absolutely.
two people created me, not the company that I work for.
Yeah.
This is just a job, So for, I work for an organization that promotes a lot of values that they're totally going against at the moment. And, that's not for me to speak ill of them. It's just the truth of the matter. And I'm a bit shocked, I'm a bit shocked. I'm a bit jaded of the field that I'm in because of stuff like this, and just when you thought it was kind of bad, it gets a bit worse. But the universe has a plan for everything, and I think everything happens for a reason. So just like you and I finally getting on this call, like, it didn't happen when I initially reached out, not to anyone's fault. It's just, it wasn't the time. We're in
Yep.
a time now where things are happening the way they're supposed to, and you just got to trust the process. So I get it. I get it and I accept it, but I don't agree with it, So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it and sorry, I feel like digging that, and I totally understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and we've had situation where, people were almost canceled, in our public,
Yes.
in our
Public
public
service.
landscape,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
public, that were, that were just outed and canceled based on um, justified and explainable arguments that actually, similar to what you just served us, which is, I totally understand what you're saying. Um, I do have, that anti-conformist gene in me,
I'm happy you do. I'm so happy you do because you're scaring me. I'm like, where's the conversation going? Is he going to tell me? I'm really
no,
happy.
no,
Go. Yeah.
but I just complied out of, well, fuck off,
Yeah. 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 Like, all right. If you can't beat them, join them. Right.
Well, and yeah, and there was kind of a, I don't know, like yesterday. No, it was Saturday. Again, we had some couple came home and they started talking about like the Russian vaccine, and they talked, they were just like, it was like almost like a hot debate on, I would never take that shit, and they turned around and said, Alex, would you get shot by the Russian vaccine? I was like, it would shoot shit in me and I wouldn't care. Am I compliant now? I got your shitty stuff. McDonald's puts worse shit in our body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, it was just like, all right then. What is it? You wanna, you wanna shoot me 4 times? All right. But I do have that gene in me. I do have that anti-conformist, where, and to be quite fair, I think I flipped the switch on getting the shot by anti-conformism, just like, okay, I'm going to be the first one to fucking get it,
Right.
so.
Right. 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 Well, I think Alex, like throughout my whole life, I've had to kind of go against the grain. There were so many things being presented to me in my life about how I should be as a person, or how I can make things happen for myself. I was told I got to go these routes, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go this route and make this happen for me. So I think this part is just like another piece of that, where like I have to. I'm not allowed to conform. It's just not how I was programmed as an
I
individual.
know,
I
I know.
accept it, like it's just some of us are made that we're all made differently, and
Yes,
throughout, throughout my life, like in as you're speaking, I'm thinking about the past, and in retrospect, it's like I don't think I've never I'm so stubborn. I guess it's the Taurus in me,
yeah.
like I got to do things my way, and you can't tell me otherwise. Like, don't budge me. I'll do it when I want to do it, kind of thing. So
Wow.
yeah.
So you're a young version of me.
Exactly. I'm cut from the same cloth.
It's so funny because, um, like I told you, like I started in sales. Like I'm 46. Like
Yes.
and I'm a self-learning guy. Like so
Yeah.
that you can imagine. Like my father is like a scholar that like was probably one of the first get graduated student from a computer at the
Yeah.
time. Like it was, like so he literally kicked out accountant at our hydro public hydro services um, when he was a young man. Like so
Right.
so. Um, and he's a scholar, but
Yeah.
I learned by myself. Like I tried school and it was shit, and like
Yeah. You're
I kind of
self-taught.
yeah, and I out cried. Like I pretty much like kind of highlighted the fact that they were really crappy teachers, which doesn't jive well with school, right? Like you just get outed and get the fuck out, and that's it. Like so. And my father always said, like you like long trails, like you don't want to take the high road, like you like having like 2 or 4 wheels, like kind of on the side track and make your life miserable, like just
Yeah. Yeah.
almost breaking the car doing it. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but like I, at some point I think I got out of breath. Like it was just like too much. Like and I still in my most routed convictions and beliefs. I had lunch today about with my wife, and like there was a situation in the morning going on, and my wife just looked at me and said, "Let it go." She was like, "Leave it." Like and I'm like, "No, but don't you understand?" And she's like, "I do. I do understand, but let it go."
Let it
And
go.
I initially was so pissed. I was like, come on,
Yeah.
and so we finished lunch. I still haven't told her. Like you make me think. Like I still haven't told her, but she's right. Like it was.
You gotta. Yeah, they're always right, man. They're always right. The
So
person seeing things from the outside looking in, 9 times out of 10, they're right. But
yeah,
it's hard to admit that you cringe just to say, you know what?
yeah, and it's so much energy. Like I realize now. Like call it wisdom, call it whatever, but I realize now that like there was a lot of wasted energy. One of the first job I had the goatee and the hearing, and that potential manager came in the interview and he's like, "You're gonna drop the fucking hearing, right?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I'm like, what?" He's like, "No, no, no, no. You can't be meeting with customers and have at that. Like, you drop it."
Hmm.
My first instinct was to just stand up and get up. Like it was just like, are you fucking kidding here? Again. And so I'm like, okay. And he's like, the goatee. And he started naming public figures.
Yes.
And like he's like, oh yeah, but there's that prime minister that once he had one, right? I'm like, I don't know. And he named like a few public figures, and he's like, okay, you can keep the goatee, but the hearing, no, 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 like it's a big no-no.
Right.
And I was driving back home. I was like, I can't believe. But then again, like I had my I had my kids young, and I couldn't say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was dinner was dinner was actually at the mercy of me not accepting that job,
Right. Right. Right.
and and I could find it off, but it was, and during my mostly my professional life, like it has cost me, like and right now the situation, it's a bit around that. It's just like you look, you said it, like you said it, like you're there's a there's actually just like people are being labeled as and judged super quickly, and fuck
Yes.
do I hate, yeah, I hate that, like
Yes.
it's a tough place to be at, but yeah, like like I had to ask, like, because it's I know it's a lot of, it's ironically a lot of effort to stand your ground.
Very
It
true.
is.
Yeah. And a lot of people, it's like something I've learned recently is that not everybody is worth the war. Like, let's just say you're an individual that can bring the war. You could bring
Yep.
a battle. You thrive off of it. You like challenge. You like conflict. Something new that I'm learning is that not everybody is even worth your war. Just because you can bring the war doesn't mean it's worth the battle, and that's okay. Like, you'll live to fight another day for a battle that's really worth fighting. And it goes back to what I was saying. Like, if you can't beat them, join them. Like, it's okay. Like, this is a decision you made because you're just like, all right, whatever. Like you said,
Yeah.
McDonald's puts worse things in our bodies than maybe this. So
Yeah.
just let it happen and let it go and run with the punches and see what happens. So I could go to war with my company, or I could maneuver and figure some other ways out to make things work for myself. And I'm doing
I love it.
I'm taking that route instead. I'll still battle just a little bit, but not in the, because I had this whole scheme. I had this whole, I was ready, Alex. I was like, oh, they're gonna know who Arys is now if they did it before. But then someone woke me out of it. They talked me out of it, and rightfully so. They're like, you know what, Arys, don't even bother with that. Like, some people aren't worth your war. Are you gonna spend your whole life here? No. Am I like, no, I'm going to be leaving here soon anyway. It's not like a place I want to spend my whole life. I'm 32 years old. I have other things I want to accomplish. They're not worth that war. Even if you could
Hmm.
bring it, or that wrath, just shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah.
Let go of the ego. Let
Low
go.
key. Yeah.
Tell your ego to be quiet and just roll, stay quiet, roll with the punches, and things will work out the way they're supposed to. So I get it now. These are things that I've had to work on myself. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard being yourself, like your
It's tough.
true self, your true authentic self, because you're in environments all the time that force you to be something else that you're not. They don't want the real Alex. They want
No.
the different,
Formatted.
yeah, the watered down Alex.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm
And
learning
it's
these things. Yeah.
the fucking mold, like I used to say, I'm not gonna fit in your mold.
Yeah.
Like I used to really am. I was angry at it. Like
Yes.
it made me, yeah, it pissed me off. Like, and my like I've been with my wife for 13 years, and
Congrats.
she's like a master navigator. Like she just navigates. Like and sometimes she's like, "You're really gonna engage?" Like really?
I pray my wife
Really?
I pray my wife is the same way. I want to be able to look at my wife and say the things that you're saying too. Like, yo, she's really good at that. Like, you learn from each other, right? It's like,
Yep.
yeah.
Big time.
Were you with her longer than, like, how long were you with her in total?
13 years. We've been married for 9, actually. Married
Nine.
for 9, about, yeah, 12, 13 years together.
That's
I
pretty cool. 4 years
coming from
together
a,
without marriage, and then married. Yeah, that's a good. That's
yeah,
dope.
Yeah. The trial was a 3-year trial.
You're killing me. That's cool though. Yeah, that's how I envision it for me too. Like a nice 2, 3 years, maybe 4 years, and then
Yeah.
at least by 4 years, okay, like that's someone I want to be with,
It-
and then
and to be quite fair, like I had come from a tough and toxic relationship, really, really toxic,
yeah,
and to be super honest, I had two older kids. They're older now, but like they're full blown alienated against me. I haven't spoken to them for 2 years now. So like it was toxic shit.
so the
So
relationship before this relationship.
previous, yeah. So I have a 24 and 21. Yeah, 20. Yep, 20. She's 20, and
So three
yeah, like
three children in total.
yeah, my youngest one is 6.
Okay.
Yeah, so the older ones, it took over 10 years to fully alienate them against me. Like the mission completed. Like they yeah, like with the justice and like the court and the lawyers and like all the old shit. Like it was just like a whole party of like shredding parentality to pieces. Like just really really bad. But all that to say, like like that my wife now had to deal with those well wounds first, because
Right,
there was
right.
obviously some almost PTSD symptoms. So like of like me kind of like I'm standing my ground for no fucking reasons, but like it
Right,
was just like I'm not gonna be like diminished or whatever, and
right.
whatever it was, like I wasn't being diminished at all. Like I had a wife that like had awesome self confidence. So again, and like my wife, um, transpires sexy because of
Yeah,
our self confidence. Like,
yeah,
and so like it's easy to be intimidated by that. Like
yeah,
and she has a strong will. She's super intelligent. Like she's like a social magnet. Like and in the best way possible. Like and it was easy, like to just reopen those wounds and say, wow, like fuck, like I feel, like like it can actually play on your own self confidence,
yeah.
like so. Anyways, like like I'm super happy with her, like she's a phenomenal partner in crime, like she's we're doing a great team.
So that's inspiring. It's inspiring to hear that you were able to still move on with your life and find love in a different corner, because some folks, they feel like they won't have that luck or be that lucky, so to speak. I don't even want to leave it to luck, right? But it's more because I feel like luck kind of devalues the situation,
Yeah,
or
but you have to work it. You have to work it. Like it's like it's yeah, you have to work it. Like you find your match. And actually, Arys, like I forced myself not to let go. Like not to abandon the idea that I had that you can find someone. My parents were together for over 40 years, right? Like so, like the example I had at home was an example of abandoning ship easy. Um, and so when I met my wife, I was actually she was a colleague of mine, and I was actually trying to get back together with my ex, like with the parents of with the mother of my child,
yeah,
and she was just a good friend of mine, witnessing me desperately trying to fix things. Like, and she was like, "Wow, like it's you, from what I hear, it's not working." Like I'm like, "Yeah, but like I have to give every single friggin' chances, like just to see if like." And I would always say the same thing, like if it doesn't have to be, if it doesn't comes to be, it like I have to sleep knowing that I tried every single angles. And
Yes.
at some point, like I literally fell in love with that lady, and that was my kind of my, like the light bulb. I was like, shit, like, so if that happens, it means that, like I gave everything I could to, like to fix things on my, my other relation, and that was it. I could, last nail in the coffin. And yeah, all right, like we.
Really inspiring. That's really inspiring. It gives me hope because at 32, I think about the woman who I don't know who she is. I don't know where she is. I don't know if we've met yet. Maybe it's someone I already know. Only God knows, right? But I'm excited. I look forward to that day where I have something similar to how you're describing it. Like you guys were friends at first, you knew each
Yeah,
other and you're building something. Like you said, you guys are great partners in crime. You're building something.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and it is yeah, it is like a construction, like it is you're building something, like
yes.
you're yeah, and that involves work, like every build,
Yeah.
so all right, let's come back to our regular programming here.
This is good conversation. Yeah. We're talking like we're not even on a show, right?
It is.
We're just sharing some knowledge. Yeah.
um, let's rewind back the tape of your life, Arys. Like I usually ask that of my guests. Like the like some of the first marking moments of their lives. Like that. Like that has inspired the person they became. Um, where would you bring me back to? Like in terms of like your own life story.
Damn. As you were speaking, a moment popped in my mind, and I don't want to start on anything negative to to just start on negative, but to just paint the picture of where where my inspiration or my motivation or self motivation or the feeling of just not giving up came from, and a moment in my mind came into mind when you were speaking, was when a moment where like the first off the word sadness came to mind, and I was remembering having to like move out of a place and leave my things behind, things that really meant dear to me growing up, like even in my day to day, I collect a lot of like action figures and comic books and stuff like that. But if I still had the things that I had to leave behind now, oh man, I would be like the ultimate collector. I had a lot of stuff growing up. I started really young with collecting comic books and action figures and stuff, but I moved around a lot. And some of the times that we moved around, we had to leave things behind.
And
And
why is that, Arys? Why was that?
I don't think we had the stability in place that my mom wanted us to have, My mother, we just moved around a lot. I was left in certain places, that I wish I wasn't at the time. And my mom kind of left us in these odd places with folks, and a lot of the times, like I said, when we finally did settle down together, it's like we had to leave that place for whatever reason, things that kids aren't aware of, so
Yeah.
you fast forward to today and I look at my apartment and the things that I've collected, and it's like those things really mean a lot to me, and I hope to pass those down to one of my children, one day. But I don't know, just growing up, it was just like I was forced to grow older than I was, to mature quicker than I actually should have been or should have,
What
so
was the sibling, like the sibling situation? You had brothers and sisters in that mix?
yeah, I had one sister at the time, and then my second sister was born in 1999. um it's funny, I was on the phone with them today. We don't speak often, but when we do, it's as if we never stopped speaking, or you would think we lived in the same house, together. And we're all in our respective areas, every in our
Hmm.
respective corners. My youngest sister there's the baby, my young sister, and then me. I'm the eldest. So my sister just had a child, so I'm an uncle for the first time.
Congratulations, sir.
And we got on the phone today, like before this phone call, we were on a 3-way call, just really just laughing, and we didn't really get to enjoy our childhood together, us three. But now that we're kind of separated and in our own corners and more mature, we can come together and still just speak of the past and joke and still, be there for one another. So I cherish those moments. You know what I mean?
Yep. Was the like usually when this is rocky, like what was your relation with authority in general? Like what was your, like, because like the first source is, well, actually your parents, like so what was your relation with that authority? And then like the first foreign authority is actually school. Like so what was your relation with school authority then?
Great question. I was taught the foundations, the foundations that I still use to this day, which is like, respecting your elders. I was taught how to have manners and how to speak and ask for things and to say thank you and bless you and holding the door for people or whatever that may be, and a lot of those foundations came from my grandmother and my mom. My grandmother was one of those people that my mom kind of left us with in certain times while my mom was out doing other things or traveling and living her life. So my grandmother had an opportunity to raise me, and I was the first grandchild in the family. So my grandmother and we have that connection. I'm everyone's older brother. All of my cousins
Yep.
and stuff who are female, they're all younger than me. So I learned those foundations, and regardless of my relationship with my mother, I still was able to show her that respect because I knew she was my mother. I was never like disciplined as a child because I had those manners and those things instilled in me. I never caused any problems. I was a quiet child, but I was an observer and I saw what was going on, even though people thought I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I knew right from wrong as a kid, and I could feel my feelings as a child. Like I'm a very emotional being, and I remember as a child I felt things that I don't think children are supposed to feel because I was observing so many things that were not good, things that
Yeah.
were good. I knew what good felt like. I knew what bad felt like. I knew what uneasiness felt like. Like I could sense when something was about to happen. Like, oh, we might be leaving here soon. And a lot of things
Wow.
will be left behind again, like stuff like that. So um, I feel like now at 32, I'm enjoying life the way a child would. Not to say I'm in my second childhood, but the opportunities that I didn't get when I was younger, I'm able to enjoy life now the way a child would because I'm a bit more free now. I'm on my own. I'm independent. I've been independent since 18. So I'm understanding things a bit differently and not taking life too seriously, just trying to live life to the fullest while you still can, because you mentioned the pandemic earlier. People are dying.
Yeah.
People are dying left to right. They're not getting that opportunity to live. So we got to live, Alex.
Yeah. Yeah. Starving stability though. Are you like even at 32, like are you starving stability? Or like do you feel that, like it has created kind of that scar in you where, like if it becomes unstable or do you have that in you, or you were able to, like kind of heal these wounds? Um, like
You mentioned something. This is the second time you're saying wounds in our call, and it's funny because I posted something on Instagram, and it was like I post like these quotes of the day or whatever. And I don't know what drew me. Well, actually, I do know what drew me to say this, but I said some would rather throw salt in the wound than to be the cause of the wound itself. So I said some would rather throw salt in the wound than to be the cause of the wound itself. I don't know. I don't even know what it means, but it's just something that came to my heart and my mind that I had to post. But I'm healing now. I'm learning how to heal. I'm learning how to keep structure. Structure has always been important to me, but there's a fear attached to that. Because for an example, like I'm 18, since I was 18, I've been living on my own, and I've been living in the same apartment building since 18. So that there could be a fear attached to that because I'm afraid of instability. I won't try to move in a different place,
Yes,
So there's that awareness there. But I like stability. It's because as a kid I didn't have it. So it's like
exactly. Yes,
let me stay in this one apartment where I know I've been able to pay my rent and feed myself, and it's like a fuck you to the past, like
absolutely.
let me
Yes,
make up the equal time that I didn't have stability for the
yep.
same amount of time where I can have stability before I move on to the next stage in my life.
Almost a brag to yourself. You're like fuck you, life. You're like, yeah,
Exactly. Like I have to spend another 18 in one spot just to be, just
yeah,
to close
even
that
break
gap.
even.
We're even, right? So, but that could be detrimental, It's like I'm learning something in therapy. It's like you should never do anything out of spite, because when you're doing things out of spite or in lack, um, not in spite, not only in spite of, but like the term is out of my mind right now. But it's like as a fuck you, you're still creating more chains for yourself because you're still attaching yourself to that fuck you, when it's like you should free yourself from that fuck you and not do things out of spite or in spite of to
Yeah,
prove something to anything. You shouldn't have to prove anything to anything or anyone or the past, or because you're creating more chains for yourself to break,
yep,
unknowingly. So that's something I'm learning in therapy. I started therapy for the first time in my life this year, and it's something that I've shut down my entire life. It always presented itself, and I said, fuck therapy, I don't need it, I'll deal with my own shit, which I did. But then you get to this stage of life, and you're like, oh wow, there's some things I really didn't deal with, and I think it's time I need to kind of address these things and learn how to work through these things, the things from the past, because you were forced to grow up and deal with them at a
yep.
young age, that it builds up, and now you're dealing with it at a later age, so
And it just resurface.
they resurface. Exactly. So
Yeah,
you got to learn how to manage and maneuver again. It's like teaching yourself how to ride the bike again.
yeah. In terms of academia, like what was your, like, did you have any plan, like either inspired by that instability you describe, or, like what was, like you felt was, what was your calling?
Art and the field that I'm in, social services, because I grew up in foster care during my teenage years. um Actually, I'll be honest with you, Alex. I'll be very honest with you today, because I just love your platform and everything, and how transparent we're able to be. And it feels like we're just having a conversation. We're getting to know each other. So I like that. After grade 3, I told you offline, like I went to French school from kindergarten to grade 3.
Yeah,
After grade 3, I didn't go to school. I wasn't in school after grade 3 until about it was time for me to be in foster care at age 13. And when you're in children's aid or the system, their mandate is to put you in school right away, because they're like, why has this kid missed so much school? Let's put him in school. So I get into grade 8 at age 13. I don't get to spend a full year in grade 8. And I've been out of school since grade 3. So they don't test me or anything. They just put me in there, and it's like, go ahead. And then that same year, I'm forced into high school. And I haven't been around kids like this in since grade 3. So I'm
crazy.
forced to learn things that I wasn't able, I didn't grow up learning, like trust. I was
Yeah,
so naive in high school. I was very naive. And then throughout the foster care stage, while I'm in high school, my social workers, who tend to change often, they all tell me, oh, you need to go to school if you want to be in this field. You need to go to school if you want to work with youth. You need to go to school. And I said, I'm going to do it without school. And I never went to college or university. Out of high school, I just started volunteering, and I got involved in these organizations who I'm truly grateful for, gave me opportunities. They
yeah,
gave me opportunities, and I worked my way up the ladder. And I've been in management for a very long time, managing homeless shelters in the city and working with families and youth and people from all walks of life. And I was learning how to work with youth. Not we're learning how to work with youth, but I was running programs for youth in the artistic side of things, media arts and stuff like that, which led me to podcasting and stuff. So art is always, even going back to collecting the action figures. And my mother, one thing about my mother that I hold dear to me is that she's the one who exposed me to like comic book characters and cartoons. And as a kid, she would teach me the ins and outs. Like she just knew things. She knew all the ins and outs of these comic book characters and these cartoons. And I remember as a kid looking up to her for that, and she passed that gene down to me. And if you were in my apartment, you'll see just like collections of like all my comic books and my action figures, and I go to the comic book store once a month and I have a relationship with my comic book guy. And those things just mean so much to me. I draw,
Yeah.
like, I do music, like everything is art for me. So yeah.
Like you mentioned being naive in high school and like trusting too much. What was it again? Kind of like a bit starving stability or starving, like something or someone you could trust. Was there? You think there was something of that nature into that? Like where, like even like as a young kid or a young man, you were looking, like kind of the, I don't know, like that, like something you can attach on, or like kind of.
All I had was TV as a reference. I had the television, things I saw on TV. My mom kept us really secluded from interacting with communities and kids and stuff, like she really held her children in high regard, which I respect. And I couldn't get the things that other kids were getting, like I wanted tearaway pants and sneakers. And instead, during the summer, I'm wearing dress shoes and fucking, like, she just had us like little adults from a kid.
Yeah.
Like my birthday parties, there were no kids. It was adults. I was at an adult restaurant with like adults, so I only had TV for reference. And whatever I saw on television, I wanted that. I wanted a group of friends. I wanted like a high school sweetheart. I wanted to know what love felt like. And I always said, I'm always just be a one woman man, and I got exposed to things and concepts that I'm like, that's not what I thought they really were, like whatever I thought they were, it's not really what it is. Like
Yep.
you're not going to be with that girl forever. You guys are going to break up. You're going to go crazy because it's your first love. And then you're going to fuck your pain away and fuck everything that walks so you can get back your manhood. Or the group of friends you start with in grade 9, by grade 11, you're not going to be with them because you're evolving and maturing and they're fucked. Like we're all just trying to find things out, and figure things out as kids. But I also didn't have my father growing up. I don't know who my father is, like nothing, like no name, no picture. So there's a piece of that also I felt was missing. And I always felt like if my dad was around, maybe my life would be different, Maybe he would have taught me those things.
It would be different, that's for sure. Like in terms of what it would have been, that's like it's all kind of up in the air. It's funny you mentioned the friendships. One of the first friend I lost because he moved. We were doing improv together. We were from two different. It was middle school, and were two different schools doing improv, and I literally, it was my first Asian friend, and so I discovered the Asian culture, and like just, like it was just such an eye opener meeting. Again, big props to my friend Gary, which I don't know where he is anymore, but so he moved like, I don't know, like I'm a kid, right? Like so he moved not too far, but too far for me just to pick up the bus and go meet with him. Even though I went, but later. But and it was a Sunday, and my parents go pick up some Chinese food, whatever, and I'm crying, sitting next to my dad in the car, crying. My friend's moving,
Wow.
my friend is moving, and I'm crying. And my father, which to this day, my father's 72 years old, never had one friend ever.
Wow.
He's like like he's a family of 13 kids. So his best buddies were actually his brothers.
Wow.
Um, and I remember him kind of like in his like in his father wisdom telling me that like I will end up an adult with no friends because of his own life experience.
Right.
He was like, forget about it, buddy. Like you won't have any friends later in life. I'm like, what? Like, no. Like, you may have one, two, maybe, like, but you won't have like, and I was like, well, like in my mind, just like, fuck you, dad. Like that won't happen. Like I'm going to have friends, like I'm going to have some close buddies of mine.
You,
Like,
Dad.
uh,
I'm gonna have friends, Dad.
I will have friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
but, later in life, I understood what he meant by that. Like
Yes.
when it comes to high school, like you're 14, 15, hanging out, like just like thinking that these people are going to be like friends for life or whatever. And at the end of the day, like again, like I'm 46, I have a handful of friends, like three, four, and you have to maintain that. You have to, like you have to keep that alive. Like you have to call and like ask how they're doing and whatever. Um, and there's very few that like you connect, like and like you have like a deep connection with. But yeah, like there's a lot of teachings that like sometimes. Um, they do hurt, and like you talked about the first love, like that first heartbreak is such a fucking disaster. you, you think you're
Especially,
gonna die.
especially when you, especially, yeah, you do. I was suicidal because of it. Like, and you don't have when you don't have the supports for it, it's crazy. It's like if you don't have anybody to go home to, like a parent, and speak with about what you're going through, it's like you just feel like you're in the world alone after that first love breakup, right? But it's like, it's a bit crazy. And you just shared something that I could relate to because I had a friend in high school. His name was Eddie, and he moved away as well. And he called me one night to tell me that he's leaving, right? But I told him, like, stupid me, we would walk to school together. And if he hears this, Eddie Silva, Portuguese guy, if you hear this, please holla at me. But we would talk on the phone. We would speak every night. And I was in foster care at the time. And I was all in this like lovey-dovey phase, right? I'm getting to know girls. Girls like me. I'm the new kid at school, whatever. And one night I'm on the phone with a girl. Eddie calls me. Eddie's like, yo, Arys, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. I'm like, Eddie, I'll call you back. I'm on the phone with Tiffany. He's like, no, I really need to talk to you. Make sure you call back. I'm like, all right, I'll call back. I end up staying on the phone with Tiffany for however long. The next day, I'm supposed to walk to school with Eddie. I don't see Eddie. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe I'll see him at school. I don't see him at school. Turns out Eddie got deported the next day. And he tried to call me. He called me to like give me a heads up. And I bawled my fucking eyes out, man. Cause that fucking girl kept my time. I'm like, like girls will be the death of us, some of us, like. So Eddie Silva, if you listen to podcasts and you listen to this one, please reach out. I don't know where this guy is, what happened, but it's like someone one day and then the next day they just disappear. So
Yeah, and like those first times are like they're defining. Like like it's funny because my parents, they had only one love. Like so there was no heartbreaks. Like very few actually.
yes,
I think my mom met my dad. She was 13. Like, and so it was
That's
And
long term, man. They come
that's
from a different. They come from a different era. You know. Do you ever wish?
exactly.
Do you ever wish that you grew up in their era?
There's some pieces of that, like we had like the World Fair, and like there was this, like the Montreal Olympics, and
Yes. Yeah.
um, so I mean, in a sense, like especially our province was just like exploding of self affirmation, right? Like both on the social side and the politics side. So there's something interesting around that. At the same time, um, I'm not sure. Like, am I? Like, are we in the best era? I mean, I truly believe that like every generation is in their best era. Like that. There's definitely, it's fun. Like some fighter this weekend. There was a UFC card. Someone said there were two fighters that at the end of their fight, like it was just like an all out war, and he said. Um, we're not born in the right era. We should have been in a coliseum killing each other. Like I was like, ugh,
Right. Right.
you know, that's a bit much.
That's too much. Yeah. Well, they're
That was,
gladiators, right? Some of them are gladiators,
yeah,
so
yeah.
they
Like,
feel like, yeah.
and I'm sure he does believe that. Like, but I don't know. Like there's, like I'm not too nostalgic. Like I tend to be living the moment. Like and enjoying like I do myself too, like I have like a lot of, like the gadgets and the collectibles and like the stuff that, like reminds me of, of periods and times. And, um, I was talking about the restaurant and, like that we went to, and the guy's a funky chef, like, and he's like, okay guys, so like, here's, like how dinner will work, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, that dinner is going to be provided by Wu-Tang Clan soundtrack tonight. Like, and
Wow.
then, and so all night, it wasn't just Wu-Tang Clan. It was actually all kinds of bands, but bands of my era, like the
Yes.
Alcoholics, and like there was a lot of
Alcoholics.
stuff
Yeah.
that was
What do
kind
you
of
know about the alcoholics, Alex? What do you know about?
well, like it's funny because I had a good friend of mine, Marc André, that would buy imports. Like we would go to a store in downtown Montreal and buy
Yeah.
like these import cassettes, and like kind of stuff that was a bit shady, right? Like stuff that it wasn't mainstream. Like so we had like we had the uncensored Two Life Crew band
Yes.
albums, and we
Yes.
had
Yes.
the like we had all of that kind of underground shit. And I don't
That's,
remember all of them, but like some was, and so the chef went table to table. And I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy, but it wasn't just a Wu Tang
right.
soundtrack tonight. It
Yeah.
was a few Alcoholics and BDP, and the guy went, "Holy shit, dude! Like your hip hop." I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
I know
go.
my stuff.
Let's go. Let's go, man.
All that to say that like I tend not to be not too nostalgic, even though. I read a lot, like looking back at stuff, like, and like I can appreciate it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so as you said, like you were, like kind of guided through, like helping others and like through artistic kind of channels. What like you mentioned being in charge of, like either foster center or community services center.
Yeah.
Does that, or it still does, but like does that fulfill the mission you felt you were, like you were given?
It's a beautiful question. Um, I think. I think like 90%. I feel. I feel like that chapter should. I'm over it. Like I'm over.
Okay,
I think I
so
have.
you repaired what you had to repair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I did. I misunderstood the question. Ask. Say it again, maybe.
Well, do you feel that, like, because like there's something about, like fulfilling a calling,
Yes, yes. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I accomplished a lot, and I have a lot that I still want to accomplish. I just don't know. You know what? I'm gonna be real with you. I feel a bit lost right now. I feel like I already accomplished the things that I wanted to. Obviously, there are more things that I want to accomplish. I just don't know what they are. I don't know if it's in this field. I don't know if it's just doing my art full time. When you're in this field, you become really jaded by, you come across an organization, for an example, and it's like, okay, you see their values, but when you're on the inside, you're exposed to things that are just like not healthy. And it's like, is this where I want to spend my time in my life? Do I want to give my energy to this? But I'm 32. I still got all this energy and I could take it. I'm not like burnt out or anything, but how many hits can you take? And it's like, I'm successful in my art, but art doesn't pay 100% yet. We're on
Yep.
that path. So I think every day I wake up thanking the universe for being alive. That's an accomplishment. I'm glad that I'm still here. I'm glad that I'm not giving up. You mentioned something earlier about you chose not to just never give up and to keep going, and that's what I look to for inspiration on a daily basis. That like, yo, I'm still here. I could have given up a long time ago, and I'm still here. So when you play a video game and you acquired all these skills and these weapons and the inventory, and then you die and it's game over and you lose it. You lose all
Yeah.
that stuff and you got to go back and pick it up. Like, that's what giving up is to me. Like, I would never do that because I've acquired so much. I don't want to go backwards. I want
Yeah.
to keep going, keep playing this game, because steel sharpens steel. A challenge that comes your way on a daily basis, it's going to make you better and stronger, wiser, wittier. Just like, I had a conversation with someone yesterday, Alex, and this is a person that I wish I could really connect with on a deep level, but she's not there. She's not
Mm.
there. In fact, she's in the same place that I left her a year ago, a year and change ago. It's like, what have you been doing this whole time? I've been growing. I've
Yeah.
been improving on myself. I've been working on myself. I've been trying to change for the better. Just so when this moment happens where we connect again, if it ever happens, I could show you how better I am. I'm greater. When we left each other, I grew. I took that opportunity to learn things and to improve on myself and to learn from those mistakes. But she's still stuck in the fucking past.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's like,
It's
that's
sad.
what,
It's sad. It is sad. It is sad. Like like you see that from some of the elder, like the older
yes,
people,
yes, yes. They're
and
stuck
like
in their
where they
ways.
seem to, like they seem to have abandoned, like fuck, man, like there's still time to go, like there's definitely still time to go,
It's
like
never
and
too late. It's never too late.
it is
It's,
crazy. Um, One of the last question I have for you, Arys, is
yeah. You have great
what
questions, by the way. This is like, I really like our
things. What what do you consider a healthy daily spiritual um, 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 spiritual, physical, mental diet to keep on going on, to keep improving, to keep getting better at life? Like what for you is, like your must do in, like on a daily basis.
I love that. Another thing I posted today, which it was, I put in quotes, thank you. And then I said, this is the first thing that I say out loud every morning. So the moment I wake up every morning, Alex, and I see that I'm still here, the first words out of my mouth are always just thank you. I just say thank you. And showing gratitude to whoever your creator is, whatever your beliefs are, the universe, call it whatever the F you want. as long as you believe in something. Even not believing is believing. So if it's yourself that you believe in or only what you see, that's fine. But just you got to show gratitude to something.
Yeah.
Because you can't take responsibility for all of this. It's not just you, you know. So something is playing a role in all of this. And the fact that you're able to wake up and you see that you're still here and you have another opportunity to be your best self, to maneuver around challenges or through challenges that present themselves to you, work on your communication skills, etc. Like I just acknowledge those things on a day-to-day basis and I speak out loud. I go to the mirror and I just look at myself and I say, just thank you. Continue to be you. Look at you. Look at yourself. Look at what you've made it through. You're still here. So go inspire someone else to remind them that like they could do it too. You know, and I have my daily affirmations that I have on my fridge, and I have a set schedule that I live by. Like, you know, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, I read and write in my book. I when I read a book, like right now I'm reading a spiritual book. It's like it takes you through the 12 months of the year and each month represents a theme. But when I read a book, I study the book. Like I take notes as if I'm in school still. And
Yeah.
I write down little tidbits that I want to remind myself of. And those become some of my affirmations as well that I revisit on a day-to-day basis. You know, Thursdays or Wednesdays are podcast days. You know, I record on Wednesday. Like just having that structure in my mind and in my heart and in my day-to-day help me to keep moving and to remind myself of my purpose and why I'm here, you know, and how I can inspire others and change myself, change from my old ways, my past ways. We have to continue to grow, you know, so not being so hard on ourselves, but understanding that these challenges come with the successes. It's not going to be all perfect. So, yeah, I hope that answered that question.
It does. It does. Thank you. Thank you. Like I recently added that question to my list of must ask, and
Yeah,
like I love that. Because it gives like there's similarities, but like the how distinct it is from one person to another is what makes it so interesting. But like the gratitude, like is some things that comes off it. Like the gratitude of, like being there, that, like to keep a sense of purpose, like it's either, like even in sobriety, like that there's something about, I, and, like if you don't make it mandatory in reminding yourself to be, to have gratitude, towards, like even, just sobriety itself, like to, like to be sober and, like to live every moment in clarity, like is something that, like I sometimes forget, but, like I tend to be quite grateful, like, so thanks
we
for that.
forget,
Like,
we
thanks for,
forget, we forget to
we
be grateful.
do, we take for granted, like it's, there's a lot of shit we take for granted. Um, Last thing, Arys, where can people find you? You talked about Instagram, your podcasting. Where can people find you?
So the Who and How Club is my podcast, my movement, my blog. The Who and How Club. You could look us up at on whohowclub.com. So whohow.com is the website, or at Who How Club on all social media platforms. If you want to reach out to me personally, I am at only one Arys, ONLY, the number one ARYS, which is my first name. And my music, I have some new projects coming out. So get familiar. My website's arysdejan.com. Arys Dejan is my first and middle name, and that's what I use as my artistic moniker. And I'm just working on some stuff right now, just continuously creating through podcasting, through music, through modeling, through writing, through working with the homeless. And I look at everything as art. And this conversation today, Alex, was a piece of art that I am going to cherish, and I'd love for you to come on our platform as well so we could get to know more about you in an in-depth way. So I appreciate you having me today.
I'd love to. I'd love to, like return the favor, and like it was. I had a blast talking with you. Like for all of the guests, like don't pause, don't stop that shit. Just scroll down in this description, and every fucking links that Arys just provided are there. Just look down and click. Um, and I thank you. I thank you for your time. I thank you for how open you were. I feel like we could have talked, for hours. Like that, like
Yes.
there's so many stories that like I feel we could have shared. And but at the same time, like that's the beauty of that freaking podcast. So like it's like that, like there could be a take two and take three of like that conversation, and
Yeah.
that's what I enjoy about it. Like and I wish you the best, Arys. Like like it was there was a lot of fucking hustling going on in your life. Like there was a lot of struggling and resilience, and like it's a phenomenal example of like again of another guest that just went through all kinds of fucking hustle and all kinds of like looking at 1,000 feet. Like I tend to always look at my guest story from 1,000 feet. Again, and someone would just describe like kind of the premise of Arys. I can say, okay, I got a guy here, and like he's
Wow.
and they just like
Wow.
the big lines of like your life, and someone would say, okay, so he's dead now, like or
Yeah. Yeah.
he's homeless.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
man. Like
It's-
he's a successful professional that lives out, like mostly out of like his artistry, and and could you fucking believe that? Like, and someone would say no, like, and so that's that's what I like about that. Like that's what I like about that conversation is that like like you're probably my 165th guest, like where like people have when you describe people's life story, like a lot of the like the public out there would not believe like what how phenomenal human beings are, and like you're another great example of that. Like that, like true resilience and true believing in ourselves, so like we can make like phenomenal things. Like and thank you for
That
sharing
means
that,
a lot.
Paris.
No, that means a lot, Alex. Thank you for acknowledging that. And you inspire me as well. Just the convo before we started recording was really inspiring. So the conversation will definitely continue. And you coming on our platform, we're going to continue this convo and we'll flip the script. But I could tell when you, like you said, if you and I speak, we could speak for hours. So I'm excited to
Absolutely.
have you on our platform and we'll get to know who Alex is and kind of pick each other's brains on some things. So thank you again.
Thanks. Take care, Aris.
You too, sir.
Bye bye.